Hey, Wire Monkeys, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. We are talking fiber certifications.
Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low voltage industry connects. Hosted by Chuck Bowser, RCDD, we're here to empower installers, designers, and industry pros with the tips, stories, and best practices you need to stay ahead. From copper to fiber, standards to innovation, this is the show that keeps you...
Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by apprentices, installers, technicians, project managers, estimators, even customers. We're connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind hitting the 5-star, giving us a 5-star rating that helps us reach more people so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know I do a live stream on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD. And you know that's me. Don't even try to pretend like I'm not. Your favorite RCDD questions on installation, certification, design, project management, estimation. I even do career path questions. But I can hear you now. But Chuck, I'm driving my truck on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. I don't want to get into a crash. Okay, I record them, and you can watch them at your convenience. Also, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you find value in this content, would you click on that QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee. You can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me, after hours, of course. And I'm also even selling now T-shirts on Amazon. So if you want a Let's Talk Cabling T-shirt, look it up, Let's Talk Cabling on Amazon. You'll find it. So recently, well, not necessarily recently, but within the last couple of years, the federal government started doing a broadband initiative. And what that does is taking fiber to the rural networks of our country. And what that did was it increased the demand for people who are skilled fiber technicians. What that also means is now companies are also struggling to find those qualified technicians. And that's where certification and training comes in. Because a lot of times we start out in this industry, you get put on copper. Very few people go straight to fiber. And so it's always been a lag to get those fiber certification skills. Now, everybody already knows all the other, all the famous ones like the Bixie fiber class and the FOA fiber class. But you know what? A reputable name in fiber optic training has just come out with some certification that you might want to be interested to talk about. So joining us today is Sean Kelly from Light Brigade, an industry leader. If you've ever been to a Bixie conference, I think he speaks at every single one. And I always try to go to him because a wealth of knowledge. He has forgotten more about fiber than I know about fiber. So we're going to talk about Light Brigade, and we're going to talk about their new certifications that are coming out. Mr. Sean, welcome back to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Chuck. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. So give us a quick 30-second intro. Who is Sean Kelly? Who is Light Brigade? And why should we listen to you guys?
Okay. Well, I'm Sean Kelly, RCDD, CFHP. I'm a near 30-year fiber optic veteran in the industry through engineering and product management, and marketing roles, different things like that. I currently serve as technical director and head of marketing at Light Brigade. So my team, we have responsibility for creating all of the content, keeping it modern and updated. And then obviously on the marketing side of it, my marketing team, they are getting the word out. So in Light Brigade, we've been around for 38 years. So Light Brigade's not a new name. We are the global leader in fiber optic skills training. So they're fiber optic training and everything. We really balance ours between the theory and the hands-on. So some people just teach you how to push the buttons. We want you to know why you're pushing those buttons.
You know me. I'm the acronym king. I do the acronym challenge on LinkedIn all the time. CFHP. What's that?
Certified Fiber to the Home Professional.
Is that one of Light Brigade's?
Fiber Broadband Association.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. See?
Yeah.
I learned something new today. Every time I talk to you, I always learn something new. So you're probably more plugged in than most of the people that I know when it comes to the demand for fiber right now, especially with the whole federal broadband initiative. Can you give us a high level view of how big is that demand right now?
Well, Chuck, that demand is huge, and it's been huge even before BEAD. And the other big player right now is the increase in data centers. So between, obviously in data centers, we're increasing a lot with the AI. And a lot of the training and things like that are out there for people are really around power and cooling and everything in the layer 2 and above in the OSI model. So we felt a need to bring that to the market for data center technicians. But the other huge driver is definitely BEAD and the fiber to the home. And, as we know, much of our country is covered with some sort of broadband right now. But the interesting fact is there's 10.7 million homes in the United States right now that have no access to either broadband coverage or even cellular, that they can even get a cellular signal where they live. So that is the idea behind BEAD, is to really be getting broadband to those folks in those rural areas. So with that, over the program of BEAD, which is expected to last, 4 to 5 years, it's had some delays here. It's just a recent thing I just saw this morning that they're doing speeding. I think an act called Speed Up BEAD to kind of take some of the red tape away and get that moving a little faster. But, Fiber Broadband Association, they had said they estimate over that 5-year period, we're looking for at least 205,000 new technicians.
Wow.
That's
a lot of technicians.
Other estimates go as high as 800,000. The Government Accountability Office in the U.S. is a little over 30,000 just this year alone. So that's the need by the newer technology or the newer installations. But there's a problem that came before that is making that even harder. And the problem before that is, if you think back 25, 30 years ago, the school system started encouraging students to not pursue blue collar jobs and to go after the 4-year degree for, an office type of job. And so that led to driving out some of the VOTEC programs and the shop classes and things like that. And so what we're left with right now is we're left with the back end of that, where the average technician age in the United States is right around 45 years old. It's between 43 and 45.
Yep.
And the thing is, especially if they are union or, depending on where they're employed, they're getting to the point where they could retire from that first job, or those technicians are moving out and going to a management role or something like that. So a problem we've been dealing with for about 5 or 6 years now is for every 5 of those technicians that leave the field, there's only 1 to come in and replace it.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of effort, through Bixie, through ETA, FBA, Light Brigade, all of us, to really try to help and to drive and bring those technicians into the space. Most recently, we've been engaging and implementing our courses into workforce development programs around the country via community colleges and state workforce development. So we're really trying. We know it's a huge gap. The biggest problem is the attraction of that, and that's actually something that many of us now are trying to do, is even catch them through some of the CTE, the career technology education in the middle schools and high school level, really getting them interested into that career path. Because once they graduate, there's nothing out there telling them, hey, there's a great role in telecom. Go pursue that. So,
great! Telecom's a great career to be in. And for those who don't know, Sean mentioned BEAD. That's an acronym. It's Broadband Equity and Access Deployment Program. The federal government dropped, I think it was $40 million, $42 million, $43 million.
It's 48.5 billion.
Billion. Oh, that's right. I said million, didn't I? Million wouldn't go very far.
But that number to a lot of people, and certainly not going to get political here, but we start hearing about a lot of this spending and those big numbers. And people would think initially, well, $48.5 billion, that's a tremendous amount of money. What we know is the actual rollouts are going to cost 2 to 3 times that until they're installed. So that's not like someone going out and installing a new deployment and getting a 100% reimbursement. Some of them are going to be 25 to 50%, somewhere in that range, that they actually get refunded back. Otherwise, those networks are going to cost a tremendous amount of money. So it sounds big, but in the scope of things, it really isn't. So.
No, it's not when you look at the entire country. And I think you said It's gonna give the access to, what'd you say, 10 million homes?
10.7 million. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't have. Yeah. It's funny when you said that. I was like, I want to buy one of those because sometimes I just want to unplug, just get away from the internet.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Within that BEAD Act, there's what's called digital equity, and way back when it first was established, some of that digital equity funding would go to training. Unfortunately, that's been pulled back, and I agree with what they were doing with it. Is they realized that two things are happening in these rural areas. They're going to be very small ISPs. And there aren't people that understand they didn't come from that space in that area. So they need to be trained on running an ISP. And at the same time, it's educating the community. I mean, if something for you and I, Chuck, we're sitting here on doing video conference here.
Yep.
A lot of that 10.7 million people have never experienced this. They don't know what an Amazon. They can't place an Amazon order. Well, I guess we're supposed to be boycotting that right now. I don't know. But I read that last night. But anyway, like what an Amazon is, a Google search, different things like that. So we need to spend some of that money to really get those people up and understanding it, knowing that it's not Big Brother. The internet is not Big Brother looking at us. Now, for those of us that have used it for 25 or 30 years, we're used to it. But there's a subset of our population that has no access to this.
Yeah, it's a great resource. It certainly is, and it's a great resource. It's also a great distraction, and also could be a great misleading thing as well too. So,
can be.
But if you don't have internet or any kind of form of internet, you're behind 80% of the people in the United States, because we all have it and we're using it to make our lives better, to work more efficiently, to find out information, to go on platforms, to buy stuff, have it shipped to our house. I don't believe in boycotting anything. I got way too many other things to worry about. Like,
exactly.
Oh my gosh, I forgot to put the security fencing around the broiler chickens last night. Am I going to lose my chickens to a predator tonight? I got more important things to burn and worry about than worrying about what companies' political beliefs are.
Let's take a short break. Are you looking to grow your low-voltage business? At Bowman Vision Media, we don't just market to the low-voltage industry. We come from it. With decades of experience, we uniquely understand your business and how to help it grow. From social media to content creation, we deliver marketing that works as hard as you do. And while you're leveling up, check out the 49 Volts podcast, your go-to source for industry insights and expert interviews. Visit BowmanVisionMedia.com to learn more and subscribe to the 49 Volts podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen.
Hey, let me ask you this, right? So now we you said the estimates are 200 to 800,000, need additional fiber techs, right? What's going to be the biggest challenges the company face in finding those skilled fiber technicians?
Well, attraction is number one. Finding those folks that are out there, and there are some things that it goes down to even knowing how to hire them. And I know you and I had talked about there's some common things you see, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 telecoms, when they're putting out a job field or a posting for someone, and they're asking for something like being able to distinguish colors, have a valid driver's license. Right. Be able to work in confined spaces and on ladders. But the reality is they hire for that skill, but what those people are doing is something that's far more complex. It's accessing outside plant cables, doing proper routing, splicing, building enclosures, building these networks. Maybe they're testing, they're troubleshooting. On those criteria of having a driver's license and being able to distinguish colors, that doesn't make them able to do that. So with this demand, the contractors, they're hiring people in. They're trying to attract these people. But chances of getting someone that's already trained is kind of slim. And so you really come down to some options. And so some of those options are either do the on-the-job training, which is there. The younger generation we know loves the YouTube training, which that's there's good and bad to that, right? Or there are definitely some formalized trainings and having those credentials and certifications. That can also help someone be more marketable when they are looking for that job to be able to have those credentials. So, we really want to make sure that those technicians are trained well so that they can perform. When you have untrained and unskilled workers, we've seen the mistakes that are out there, the reliability, not pressure testing your splice case, having poor splices, not using splice trays. There's a lot that happens there. And it's funny. I think you and I talked about it once before. And I had to block it. I had to stop looking at it. But there was a Facebook page called Fiber WTF Moments. And the disasters, the people opening up a cabinet in the outside plant or a splice case is like, some of them even had notes in there. Sorry, too bad you have to look at this. And, those are sometimes funny. They're humiliating sometimes. But when we're doing something like this, where we're bringing a service to people that have never had it before, they've been waiting. It's almost like having indoor plumbing, 80 years ago, right? You want it. And when you get it, you want it to work. So we want to make sure that those technicians are trained to make something and have that reliable network there. So 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, you don't have a splice come apart or water get into a splice case that's frozen. Now you have a splice sickle, something like that that's going to take their service down. So, we want to make sure that we are getting people trained the right way. The unfortunate thing, and I have a good buddy of mine, he's a contractor in Maryland, and he used to only want the best of the best. He would turn away more people than he would take. We had a little ingest type of moment where he basically says, I check to see if they have a pulse, and I ask him one question. Can you assure me you will come to work 4 out of 5 days a week minimum?
Wow.
So that's how, because of the demand, you really can't be as selective as you were before. You want that person, if they're going to come to work, hopefully they come 5 days a week. But he said, look, if you give me at least 4 out of 5, don't call in 3 days a week. We'll train you. And he does. And he turns these guys into very, very good technicians. So it's just unfortunate there's not a pool of people sitting out there that are well skilled in this, that are ready to work, but don't already have jobs.
Yeah, this I was thinking as you were talking through that, because this is the BEAD Act to bring information to people who don't have it. So let me ask you this influx of need of fiber technicians and stuff, is there going to be any regional variations, or is it a nationwide issue? Because I'd have to imagine that, like, if you live in the D.C., since you mentioned Maryland, by the way, I'm from Maryland, so I got Maryland flags in behind me. So if you're in the D.C. area, I would imagine that the B dollars probably don't really increase the need of technicians there. But if you're in, some rural town in Arkansas where there's not much, I would think that they would need more.
You're 100% right. And so that does create a bigger problem. So another industry veteran like you, me, has a voice in the industry. About a year ago, wrote an article challenging some of those numbers of needed technicians. And his viewpoint was, why in the world do we need all of these new technicians when we've built out broadband and fiber to the home everywhere else in the country? Well, there were a couple things that come into play there. The first is, just because it's built, when it's built doesn't mean you're out of a job. There are still plenty of maintenance and expansion. So those people are still employed by the people that they work for when they deployed at that place. It's not just like they're sitting around and we can just take them there. The other problem is you really have a wage disparity. And so, I don't know, it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, Betsy Conroy and I did an article where we were really talking about the need for technicians and this demand. And some of the research that we had come up with, we saw significant disparities where, someone in the New York or North Jersey, even DC metro area might be making $90 an hour as a technician. And then you go to rural Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and they're paying their technicians $17 to $19 an hour. You are not going to have anybody from making $90 an hour to say, I'm going to pick up shop and I'm going to move to one of these locations and make $17 to $19 an hour. So we really are relying on taking people from those regions with that normal expectation of pay, and having to bring them up from somewhat almost nothing to something. And so you just can't shift them around. So that regional is making a big difference.
Right. And, if you learn a skill like, installing, terminating, certifying fiber optic cabling,
Yeah.
That's a skill you can take anywhere. You can take it from Alabama to Miami or to New York or to Philly or to Los Angeles or, easily transfer it over. And that, got me thinking too, because I did a project once. Oh, where was it? It was in Mississippi. I did a project for a 2-story building for a very well-known telecom company back a long time ago, before the owner got put in jail for cooking the books. I won't say who it was, but you can probably figure it out if you put that in Google, right? And so we had to hire a whole bunch of local people, and many of them, when I was going through the interview process, expressed the concern, what happens after you finish this project? And I think I didn't have a good answer for them, because once that project was done, we were done and moving out of the shop. But this is a little different, because once you learn those skills, I already mentioned, you can go to another part of the country and make a lot of money, but you also, with edge data centers and more and more data centers getting built that heavily rely on fiber optic cabling, you can easily translate over from this kind of a certification field into doing data centers. So it's not going to skill that's going to leave you. It's not like you're learning how to repair typewriters.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a skill that's going to die on you. Fiber optic is here for a while.
Hey friends, I want to tell you about a great organization, TechKnowledge Worldwide, an active community of tech professionals dedicated to elevating our industry and each other. It's the real deal, and I'm grateful to be part of this community. Their annual tech conference is coming up April 23rd and 24th in Nashville, Tennessee, and will feature amazing speakers, workshops, and even Bixie continuing education credits. Stay up to date and lock in your spot now at techfest.org. That's TEKFEST.org. I encourage all my low voltage followers to consider joining to see if they want a seat at TKW's table too. All are welcome to learn, grow, and see what putting community over competition can do. Go to techfest.org for more information.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talk about with our workforce development, people that are bringing that program in, is, because we've seen a lot of that over time, especially here in Pennsylvania, where I am, where actually the company you mentioned was headquartered in Northwest Pennsylvania before they crashed that, I believe. You have, especially in Pennsylvania, we've gone through the steel world. We've gone through coal, where you have whole communities built around that, and then it folds up and it's gone. Most recently, a couple of years ago, I sit on the Education Curriculum Advisory Board for a Penn State school. And at one point, there was this huge shift from electronics, communications, computer automation, things like that, to putting a lot of the effort into Marcellus Shale. And that was in Pennsylvania. And some of the degree programs were going to outfit these technicians to do that. Well, that's kind of dissipated over the last couple of years. And so people worry about that, with whether it's in a technical school or a workforce development, is, okay, this is the demand now, but what happens later? And it's one of the things I really stress to them is, like, if you're doing a broadband focused training, like we're going to talk about, where we do a data center or we do a general fiber optics or utilities, those basic skills are transferable from, if you get out of telecom and say, I want to work inside of a data center, you have those skills already. It's not like you have to go re-educate yourself. So it really is kind of well, nothing's future-proof, but it's pretty future-proof, and you've always seen that trend continue up. You make a great point with the edge data centers, because we're going to see more and more of those. I mean, even micro edges going beyond the edge when we get out to autonomous vehicles and you're going to have small little data centers on street corners. That's all going to use outside plant cable. And as we know historically, nobody likes to share their cable. We've got a ton of cable in the ground. We've got a ton of dark fibers in the ground. But people don't want to share a sheath. So it's still going to be trenching, putting somebody other cable in there, rerunning it, splicing it. You look around at the 5G, these small cells and microcells. You see them up on a utility pole. What do you see hanging on there? A fiber MST, a multi-service terminal hanging there, just like you might do for a fiber to the home. So there are a lot of different verticals there. And, again, whether it's professional or technician level, you can trade between the two of them and across multiple verticals.
Yeah, I was. Let's shift our conversation. Talk about the certification program that you guys just launched, right?
Sure.
I think you call it the CFOE, if I remember right, the Certified Fiber Optic Expert Program.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, sure. So Chuck, that's part of 4 of them that we've established. So we have the Light Brigade CFOE, which is Certified Fiber Optic Expert, the Light Brigade CBFOT, which is the Certified Broadband Fiber Optic Technician, CBFOS, which is the Certified Broadband Fiber Optic Specialist, and then the Certified Broadband Fiber Optic Professional, CBFOP. And so we really put those together, while all of our courses, we do have a industry credential to go along with them. Whether it's UTC, FBA, ETA, we have those to go along. But, people were asking like, okay, there are a lot of people that recognize you as Light Brigade. These are great, but Light Brigade training, having that, people have known that for so many years to show that. So we had developed, and it was kind of a couple of years in the process of doing that. We had developed overreaching what we call our SHIELD program, because it looks like a shield, is the digital credential that you're going to get. But we kind of set that up, that starting, with the CFOE, we have that set up for, it could be inside plant, it could be outside plant. We really separated the broadband side, as I mentioned. So anything that's not broadband is in the CFOE. And we have, all of our courses are broken out from foundational, intermediate, and advanced levels. The easiest way to obtain a CFOE is for you to complete a foundational level course, earn the industry credential, the intermediate course, earn the credential, and the advanced course, and add the credential. After that, you've then earned that, where we believe, in partnership with the third party industry, that you have demonstrated those skills that we can call you a certified fiber optic expert. So there we have an idea where it's choose your own adventure, where you pick any of those level courses, or we've also broken them out. So an inside plant, an outside plant, utilities, mining, oil and gas. So we hit a lot of different verticals. So we have pathways set out for people that they can earn those into different verticals. The broadband side, we've really broken that into two main categories. Obviously, the technician and the professional. Starting with the professional, that's really in your designer, and the professional, like what I have in the CFHP, is one that's not installing and not designing. They're in the middle. There might be the business, they might be they could be the salespeople, or scheduling. They need to understand why it was designed the way it was and what the technician's going to be. So we have those as concurrent, where you do the Certified Fiber Optic Professional, and then you do this outside plant design course, get the industry credential, then you earn that. Stepping back to the technician, that's one of the things that, traditional courses, including our own, are normally like a 4 or a 5 day course. And there's really only so much you can do in that. And so, we said, we also know that the industry can't send their students, send their employees for like 3 continuous weeks of a course or something like that. And there are some of those offerings that are out there where they try to do 144 hours or something like that continuous. We have found in our history, and we've done this a long time, that people are not willing to do that. They'll break it up by a quarter, they'll break it up by 2 a year, something like that. So we said, okay, we created our broadband fiber optic technician level 1 course, which it's really the broadband equivalent to our flagship Fiber Optics 1, 2, 3 course, where you're getting all the core fiber knowledge. You get more than an intro into the broadband principles and how that works. And then you really get your level 1 skills. And there are many technicians that have only ever taken that level 1, and they're great in splicing. They're great in OTDR, testing, prepping cable, whatever it is. But then we said, okay, we're going to take that, move it to a level 2, where we learn the basics. Level 2, we build upon the basics. Okay. And that gets you into the more in-depth of some of those subjects, because it is a lot of information. It's easier when you have a base knowledge and then you're growing upon that. And the same with the hands-on. We go into a little bit more advanced hands-on, where you might be doing more splices and different kind of splice cases, different kinds of splitters, how to test those, how to test them in line, looking for problems, things like that. And then I'll temporarily just going to skip over. There is a step in there we do not require it for the Certified Broadband Fiber Optic Technician. But then we have what is our Broadband Fiber Optic Technician Level 3. And that is very little theory, where 1 and 2 are split half and half, 2 days of theory, 2 days of hands-on. The Level 3 is more of a capstone. It's almost like you're going for a degree and you had to do a capstone project. So you've learned all of that information. You're bringing it together. So you're looking at maybe 3 hours of theory, and then it's followed by 4.5 days of intense hands-on, where you are placing, now we're doing it all indoors, but you'll be placing your vaults, mounting your splice cases, doing duct work between them, following a work order of this mount, this fiber, high fiber count cable is going here. This is breaking out. You might be doing, 288 fiber, 432. You really can't get into a 3, 4, 5, 6. You can't do that in 5 days. But a high fiber count, following the routing paths to what would be a virtual home, because we're not building a home within the environment. But they need to do all of that, test it, document it, and submit the as-built and the closeout package. So it's really, at that point, a lot of training is giving you the skills. We're now taking it and saying, you've learned the skills, now apply those as if someone handed you that job order. The part that I said is, and so those 3 would earn the certified broadband fiber optic technician certification. The one that sits in the middle is that specialist. So we have 4 what we call deep dive workshops that comprise the specialists. And those are OTDR deep dive, splicing deep dive, emergency restoration, and air-blown fiber. So all those subjects are talked about or covered in levels 1 and 2. But these specialized workshops are 2-day workshops with just a theory type review on them, and then really intense hands-on with simulators and kind of real world things. So the idea is the ideal path would be take level 1, level 2, then all of the workshops to really, really in-depth practice. It's repetitive at that point, and then apply it. But we don't require them to take the workshops. You can go straight into that level 3. But, when we look at it, we say at that point, we're confident that we have built those technicians up to know as much as they're going to know and count on them to be building great networks. So we've really put a lot of thought into that and really are proud of the program they've come up with.
I think you have. I mean, just, because I was sitting as you're going through the program, it's like, he already answered question number 2, question number 3, and question number 4. No, we're good. We're good.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you have thoroughly explained the difference between, the light brigade credentialing process versus some of the others. I think you covered that already pretty good too. Yeah. And also, you showed the career path. Now, what I want to ask you is, because when I looked at the information that you sent me beforehand, it obviously shows that you put some time and effort into coming up with this program. But I did notice when I was going through the documentation you sent me that somebody who completes this gets digital credentials and certifications. Give me an explanation of how that's going to help a technician stand out.
Okay, so about 3.5 years ago, we decided that we were moving away from, certainly printed and mailed certificates. A lot of people had already gone to PDF, and you can secure a PDF, or you used to be able to secure a PDF. And a little over 3 years ago, we really had a kind of a wake-up call, with our manuals and even our certificates, because Firefox, the browser Firefox, you can take a PDF and put it into there with any level of security, and it strips the security right out of it. So what you might have is someone gets a PDF certificate saying, I completed this course or this credential. They go in there and they put their buddy's name on it and print them out. And now you have a bunch of people walking around with fraudulent certifications. So we looked into, what solution could we use? And, at about the same time the ETA was doing that, as you know, as an RCDD, you have a Credly digital badge representing your RCDD, as do I. And so we said, that is a great platform. It's a recognized platform. And so we adopted Credly. And so what it is, when they complete our courses, they are given the opportunity to accept the digital badge. When they accept the digital badge, that all has a embedded serial number. There's all kinds of traceability. You can't manipulate it. But you must accept that digital credential or that digital badge before you can print your PDF version. So within Credly, you can still print your PDF, but at that point, it's going to have kind of a digital watermark in it that, you're not going to be able to copy that. And those are the ones also that have, we have a lot, I say most, over half of our courses, I believe, have VIXA continuing education credits associated with them. Obviously that's where we have that code in there where they turn it in. So it's not going to make a lot of sense if we don't have the checks and balances there. But the other thing with that digital credential, it just depends on your level. I mean, if I start at the top and you're a designer, and let's just say you have the outside plant design credential, just like you can do with an RCDD. On your drawings, you can embed that digital credential right into your drawing. So someone's reviewing that, they can click that, they can open up and learn, see what everything that you learned, what that course covered, whether you're the real deal, what you've earned. And so, other people, they do them, some people do it in social media. Some people do it in their email signatures, even on resumes. You're submitting your resume, you have that on there. Someone can actually go through and click using that digital credential. So that's really why we've done it. It gives a lot of opportunity, to be able to share that without keeping a piece of paper in your pocket, or we all remember the little credit card size, driver's license size certifications. Right. I earned that. Right. I can't read that, Well, right. Now our age, we can't read that, but,
I don't know what you're talking about. My eyesight's perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Where are my glasses, by the way?
Exactly. Yeah. But,
So let's talk about getting started. Let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, man, that sounds really cool. I really want to get into it. What's the best way for somebody in the industry to get started with this training?
Well, so one of the things that Light Brigade, we are business to business. So at the core, we require that it's a business putting an employee through. However, as we've known, and there's really not a lot we can do with this, we have had individuals over the years who start their own LLC just to be able to take the course. So they start their own LLC company with them being employee number one. It is still business to business. We don't encourage that, but we know that it happens. Outside of that, that's where some of these workforce development programs and some of them that are offered at community college and stuff that individuals can go to. Now, it can be a placement agency. I mean, you can have these recruitment firms, and we've had that before, where we have recruitment firms where we're trying to place people. They may say, we're sending people through here as employees of us, that we can then later place them. So, if you are listening to this and you are employed, business to business is just fine. Light Brigade offers really two core ways of delivering the training. The first is that there are open classes. So those are classes scheduled around the country. I mean, on any given week, we might be giving, 5 to 10 different courses around the country. People often ask, well, where are you located? Everywhere. We have three currently at the moment. We have 3 physical Light Brigade facilities, one in Kent, Washington, one in Dallas, Texas, and one outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. That we are going to be expanding. There will be other facilities, but the majority of our classes still take place. These open classes, we schedule them in hotel conference rooms.
Yep.
Every week round. So open classes, you can go wherever you like. The other thing is, if you're listening here and you say, gosh, I've got 5 or 6 or even more technicians. How do I get them all trained? We have what we call custom classes, which means that we bring everything to you, to your location, and it's a closed system where it's only your employees. So it is focused on them. Those classes, even open classes, we also do encourage, if we're covering OTDRs or Fusion Splice or something like that, we encourage people to bring their own equipment. We provide enough equipment, more than enough equipment for anybody to use in that class and learn. But if they have something like, I've got this brand of splicer, I've got this brand of OTDR, they're more than welcome to bring those to the classes as well. That's
one of the advantages of doing a class specifically just for one company. They get to learn on their own equipment.
Absolutely.
It's one thing to go to a class and learn on I'm just going to throw names out there. Let's say you learned how to fusion splice on a UCL Swift in the class, but you have FiberFox splicers at your. Now, fusion splicers generally kind of work the same.
Yeah.
But there's nuances to each of those. So that's the advantage of doing on-site training is you get to play with your own, you get to learn the training on the equipment you're going to be doing the work with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. Unfortunately, we get some people go to courses and they bring their equipment and they're even great name brands. And they say, well, I want to try on this. And they walk away from the class and, I liked what I was using, but now I want this. Apologies to the owner of the company. These guys are going to be hounding you. Oh, look what I use.
Right. Yeah. The owner who just spent, X amount of $1,000 on that brand new splicer that hasn't even been used yet. And, you're like, oh, wait a minute. That's probably not the best.
Happens. And we say our training is vendor agnostic. I mean, obviously you get people's training that there are some that is a commercial for their own product or for their own distribution, whatever. Then you've got the manufacturing training, and they all have a tremendous amount of value. We stay vendor neutral on all the things, no matter what it is, in theory, hands-on. There is one exception to that, and that is, we mentioned the digital badges, is, we partnered with Sumitomo Electric Lightwave, because, in evaluating splicers, we found that they really are, in our eyes, one of the best of the best. And so we partner with them, and we offer 3 levels, depending on which class it is, 3 different levels of Sumitomo Credly badges within where we teach that. And it's just because they're using it on that machine. If you bring in your own machine, you can still do that. You're still earning the skill. You're still learning the skill and everything like that. But that is the one thing. And the only reason we don't mix and match, we've tried it in the past. We're matching 3 or 4 Fusion Splicer brands within a class, is now you're working with 3 or 4 different groups of people at a time, and you can't give the one-on-one focus. And I guess that's a good point to mention, is it doesn't matter if it's an open class or a custom class, Chuck. We have a very strict 7-to-1 student to instructor ratio.
Thank you. Say that again for the people in the back.
Okay. So that we have a very strict 7-to-1 student to instructor ratio. That is not something that happens in some other trainings you're going to get in the industry. You might have 25 or 30 people. And when it comes to the hands-on, some get to try it and some get to observe, and then we ran out of time. That's not to say we don't hold classes larger than 7. So the instructor...
You have more instructors.
Well, the theory instructor can cover as many people. You don't need 2 instructors to do the theory. But when it comes to hands-on, if we add an 8th person to class, as soon as you hit the 8th person, we send a second instructor in for the second 2 days, split the group. We hit 15, I guess we hit 16. When we hit 16, we'll send a 3rd technician. We call our instructors, we have the instructor, and then the instructors we send to assist. We call them technicians when they go in to do the hands-on part. Right. But yes, we do that. And I mean, just recently, I think it was last week in Alaska, I don't remember if we had 2 or 3 technicians go along with the instructor because we had a class that big. But we'll send the extra equipment, so it's not a starvation on equipment, or we've just really to stress on the instructor to have more, but we also look at it. We're always concerned with the learning experience from the student. And it's really unfair to them if they can't have that one-on-one time in their.
You're preaching to the choir, because I've had this conversation with multiple people, and you hit the nail on the head. When you're teaching theory, you can teach up to 50 to 100 people easily at one time. But technicians are tactile learners; they want to put their hands on stuff. And one instructor, I think when I was a Big C instructor, I think it was 8 students to 1, 8 to 1, I think. And there's a reason for that, because you cannot give everybody the attention they need to have to learn the hands-on skills when you have 25 people and 1 instructor. It just doesn't happen. Hey, let me ask you this question, because I might have people listening to this show who might have their CFOT, Certified Fiber Optic Technician from FOA, or their installer fiber from Big C. Can they benefit from this training?
Absolutely. So we do have many people that have a FOA and CFOT have come through our courses. I'm not going to get into the feedback that we receive afterward, but let's just say word of mouth also travels that we've had quite a few of those over the years. The thing is what it really comes down to is where they can benefit is, there is a great FOA following. Jim Hayes has done a great job with that organization. Yes. And the recognition of the CFOT, that it's great. It's a great credential to have. It's great training to have. That is not always recognized. The same thing with Big C. Oh, I can be a Big C tech, but that's not always recognized. And quite honestly, Light Brigade might not be always recognized. We're looking at it that we're pairing it. A lot of ours are like, we'll have a Light Brigade and an ETA, or a Light Brigade and FBA, or Light Brigade and utilities, whatever it may be. And, it's just another one in the box. And I'm sure reciprocal, there have been people that have done Light Brigade training that have later gone to do a CFOT. Honestly, I'm not going to rank one over the other.
I'm not going to ask you to. I'm not going to ask you, because they're like cars, right? You got people who only buy Ford, and people only buy a Chevrolet, and they will never. Somebody buys Chevrolet will never recognize when Ford makes a good product. And that's how I look at fiber optic training, right? The big 3 are going to be you, Big C, and the FOA. And based on I've been in Big C classes, I've seen the FOA stuff. I haven't been in your classes yet, but I've seen your stuff, and based on what I've seen, I think you guys are right up there with all of them.
Yeah,
really do.
I mean, currently we only have one, but in the past we've had a couple. So we have, Light Brigade has full-time instructors that are direct employees of Light Brigade. And then we also have, it's not like just pull somebody this week and we'll never see you again. But we also have a pool of what we call contract instructors that are just like Light Brigade. They've gone through the same training. They have the same field experience. That's one thing you have to have the field experience. A lot of our guys are retired, that early retirement out of the field, then become instructors. And we're always looking for great instructors. But we have currently one, you and I both know him. You know exactly what I'm talking about, who is a Light Brigade contract instructor, and he's also an FOA instructor.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not going to say his name.
Nope. He does both. And we've had those in the past, and we really don't have a problem with it. As long as there's no underhanded stuff there. I mean, we don't want that person sliding people out of the FOA class and bringing them to us, just like we don't want them, move, you should be coming over here. And
exactly.
As long as they're honest like that, which we vet that very well and have that in writing, we don't necessarily care. I mean, it's a value. It's two different markets. They're different price points. And that's another thing in the industry. There are a variety of different price points. I mean, you can go get a fiber optic training for $325.
But you get what you pay for, though.
And then you can have something that's over $3,000. And you may or may not get what you're paying for there. We're sitting in the middle, where it's a little different than say the FOA, but everybody's got a budget and a goal for their training. And, that's why it's prudent to investigate your options. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest complaints I hear quite often is, especially when technicians start looking at fiber optic classes, they usually will complain about the price. And I usually tell them, I'll tell them what my dad told me. He says, you think education's expensive? Try stupidity. It's right. It is what it is. So let's say somebody's listening to the show. They're hot to trot. They want to get this training. They want to get this certified, get certified through Light Brigade. What's their next step?
A couple ways. They can simply visit lightbrigade.com. It's very well laid out on there what our courses are. They can add them to their cart. They can purchase that. Now, there are some add-ons when you're adding on the ETA certification or the manual, something like that. It may be one of those things that gets it far and you check out, it goes to a hold, and one of our account managers or our business development managers, they're not pushy salespeople, but they will call you, get your information, get that all lined up, making sure everything goes well there. Likewise, you can reach out to sales@lightbrigade.com. That'll either put you in touch with Pam, Alexa, or Linda in our business development, depending which vertical they'll handle, whichever account that is, and they'll help you out with that as well. And as always, I think you'll share my contact information. I'm sure many people out here that are watching this know me. Feel free to reach out, give me a call, send me an email, whatever. I'm not going to be the one that's going to sign you up for your class, but I will definitely put you in the hands of the proper person. And likewise, if anybody wants to discuss a specific class or try to compare two classes and say, which one should I be doing? I'll listen to what your needs are, and I'll help make a recommendation. I'm not going to oversell you, and I'm not going to try to cut you short either.
Right. Yeah, and I will tell the listener this. I've known Sean now for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. I think I met you when I first started doing the podcast, actually. And I tell you what, Sean's a quality guy. He's not going to steer you wrong. You ask him a question, he's like me. He's going to tell you, exactly what you need to know to make the right decision. Sometimes you like to hear that information, and sometimes you don't like to hear that information. But it comes from the heart, and it doesn't go through any other filters of prejudice through one organization versus another organization, standards organization versus. He's going to give you the straight up good to go. So I'm super excited about this program, and even though I'm not in the field anymore, I'm looking to maybe snag one of your former students after a class. Yeah. And do a post-class thing with them.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, you just kind of mentioned something there is that not steering. Some people know that Light Brigade, we do also have a product distribution side. We don't use that to influence the class in any way, right. But we do give all students who go through do have the opportunity on most products. It ends up being, I believe it's a 10% discount after being a student. So, you're looking, doing this place with the OTDR, whatever. But the one thing that our product manager will not do is, even if you think you know exactly what it is you want, he wants to hear how you're going to be using that. And in many cases, there have been people that said, I need this quad OTDR with all this stuff. And he said, hold on a second. No, you really don't. And look,
right,
I'm going to save you $5,000 by doing this. And, we've had a lot over the years, the appreciation of that we are not pushing to sell you the most expensive thing or something you don't need. We want to make sure that you're making the right decision for what you're doing. And that comes with training or the product side. So honestly, feel free to reach out to us. There's not a pushy salesperson in our organization.
There you go. There you go. Sean, thank you for coming on again. I'm super excited to see how this program flourishes, and knowing you and knowing Light Brigade, because I've met everybody from the CEO all down. You guys are going to go far with this program. I really do believe it.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Chuck. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low-voltage industry connects. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Got questions or ideas for the show? Chuck wants to hear from you. Stay connected, stay informed, and always aim for excellence. Until next time, keep those cables clean, your standards high, and your future bright. Let's Talk Cabling, empowering the industry one connection at a time.